But hello again, guys. My name is Brad. I'm the account executive here with Aivre, so I'll be taking you through the demo. I'm going to share my screen over to you guys now so we can go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start just with like a 2-minute overview of the platform so you guys understand some of the terms I'm using as we go through the demo. And then we're going to set up that report. And we're going to run through the automation and see the features we have within the report as well. All right, so I just shared my screen across. Nate, can you give me a check that you can see it? All good? Okay, perfect. So guys, I'm starting at the dashboard. And like I said, I'm going to give you a brief overview just so you understand some of the terminology involved with Aivre. We also just like sharing with our potential users that this is something that came organically out of the industry, as Jake Liu, our CEO, is an appraiser himself. And Jake's been an appraiser for 12 years, sits on the board here in Michigan. And his experience and his story is one that I just hear very often as I do these demos. He was trained on one of the legacy software products. Didn't really love it from the beginning, but that was the industry standard. That's what his supervisor used, so that's what he went with. And so what I'm showing you today is a product where an appraiser was able to address a lot of the bottlenecks and frustrations they had with their own workflow, while also bringing in new technology like AI just to speed the process up. And we've been collecting feedback from our users the entire time as well. We've had focus groups with appraisers from around the country. And a couple things about us: we're a zero data retention company. We're also not owned by like 5 companies above us. So we can move fast. And our only goal is to make a good appraisal product. When we get suggestions for things our users want to see, very often they will make their way onto the platform. And I'll show you a couple of those today. But some of the things we've built so far, we built a mobile app for inspection. So that's called Aivre Mobile. We also developed a market trend analysis tool called Aivre Analytics. And within that, an adjustment support tool called Aivre Adjuster. So those are some of the main terms and or some of the main components of the ecosystem. We also have 3 different tiers of subscription. So the top tier of subscription is called Aivre Ultra, and that's what I'm going to show you guys today. That's the version that's free to the end of the year. In the middle, we have Aivre Vision, and then the base tier is called Aivre Core. Now, you have to think about our subscription tiers a little bit differently, because it's not like we're starting with Ultra and we're just getting rid of features and stripping features until we get down to Core. Almost every tool that is in Ultra is also in Aivre Core. So what differentiates the cost of those subscription tiers? How much automation are we applying when we set up the AI autofill at the beginning? So on Aivre Core, it is not an automated product. So it is modern, intuitive, web-based appraisal software, but it is still manual data entry. Then when you get to Aivre Vision, that's when we start actually autofilling the report. And we're pulling from your inspection photos and assignment documents. And right now, assignment documents can be engagement letter, sales contract, public record, PRD, an MLS listing ticket. But we're looking at adding more documents to that area as we meet with appraisers who are doing different kinds of work. And then when we get to Ultra, and again, that's the version I'm going to show you guys today, that is photos, documents, MLS, and public record. But that's really the only difference. You're either automating the report from 4 sources, 2 sources, or 0 sources. Okay, so I'm going to get into the actual report now. If you guys look at my screen, this is the dashboard. And if I'm ever in another area of Aivre and I just want to jump back to my home screen, I just click on that dashboard button. So you can see I have a couple tracking metrics up here at the top. These are all the reports tied to my profile. And then down here at the bottom, I have an area for organizations and the comparables database. But organizations, I want to show you guys that. So I'm viewing this as my personal view right now. I can switch that to an organizational view. And this is an organization that was set up by Jordan Lesson, our CTO. He invited me to it as a trainee. And it's very easy to work as a team with Aivre because we're fully web-based. And this kind of highlights that. There's no software downloaded on anybody's computer. You're not tied by license to any specific device for inspections. We're also platform agnostic. So that means you can use Mac, PC, Apple, Android, whatever you want to utilize is fine. And then we're auto-saving every couple of seconds. So that allows you guys to like pick up and put down the reporting process at any stage. And in the case of an organization, between any user, right? But even as a solo appraiser, it's very nice not to be tied to a single workstation, right? Like you're away from your desk, God forbid you get a revision on vacation or something like that. You just go to aivre.com and your full software is there, all your work file data, so you handle it and you get back to vacation. Before we go into create new, I want to show you guys a couple of the buttons up here in the top ribbon. So if I go to support, this will take me to where I can access the Slack channel. And there's another way I can access that from within the report that I'm going to show you guys. But this is how you get live support from our team. real human beings. We have a lot of report experts, appraisal experts, software experts in there as well. And basically the way that that works, you send your questions in, we answer them live as they come in. If you're stuck and you need a little extra help, what's nice about Slack is we can share screens on there and screenshots so we can visually see the issue and help you address it. And then within resources, so I went to support and then resources. We have a lot of useful guides that live on the platform here as well. So we have like the photos and images guide. This is the CSV guide. So when you're importing data from your MLS. And then last thing I want to point out is that we have the F1 guide as well. And this is that big reference document from the GSEs for the 3.6 report. And that lives on the platform as well. Next is how to. So this is a video tutorial library. I can filter through using the pre-existing filters or search, see what support videos we have for different sections of the report. And if I go down to Help Center, up to Help Center, so that's the third button up here, this is kind of everything aggregated. So if I was curious about how Sketch works on Aivre, I could type in Sketch, and it's just going to pull all the support content I have for Sketch, right? Okay, let's go over to Create New. And this is going to take me to our full menu of products. So we have the full 3.6 report. We also have the restricted and completion reports. This is Aivre Analytics. So that's that market trend analysis tool. I can launch that as a standalone. Normally, you'll be launching that from within a report that you're working on, because doing so will automatically select your subject property. And then here's the G part. So we have a general purpose form as well for non-lender use. But let's go to the 3.6 report. And before I go into that, I want to show everybody. So again, if you're working as part of an organization, you can start these assignments as an individual assignment, but you can also start it right from the beginning to be a organizational report, so everybody will see that. And at any time, you can switch an individual report to an organizational report by going to your dashboard, clicking on the three dots right here, and you see Add to Organization. So if I click there, I can add that to my organization, Brad Inc. And if I flip to that page, I'm going to see that report in there now. So now my team can see it as well. So I'm going to go back to my personal view, go back to Create New, and we're going to select the 3.6 report. And there are 5 setup steps. There's also 3 general workflows you can use when you're setting up kind of the inspection and the report. So you can set up the assignment on the computer, go to the inspection, and come back. The only thing to keep in mind is if you're doing it that way, you want to keep this tab for AI autofill in the off position, because we pull data out of your inspection photos. So you don't want that to be on until the inspection is complete. You can open it up in the mobile app, do the inspection. When you come back, it'll prompt you, are you ready to autofill now? And you'll click and continue. You can also start this right on site. So you can go to the property, you can open up Aivre Mobile, you can put in 123 Main Street. That creates the report and the work file. So you'll take your photos, do your sketch. And when you get back in front of your computer, that assignment's just going to be listed in your profile on the dashboard. So I'll click on that, run the automation from there. And then the third way, and this is the way that I'm going to kind of mimic in the demo today, is that I already did the inspection. I just didn't use Aivre Mobile. So I have all the photos from the inspection and all the documents on my computer, and I'm ready to set up the AI autofill now. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to type in the subject property address. And this is a property here in Troy, Michigan, where we're based. And then you have 2 drop-down menus here. So you have one for templates, one for client and non-client contacts. Templates can be created from any completed report. So if you did like a waterfront property, you could save that as waterfront property template, and it'll appear in this drop-down the next time you start a new assignment. But you also can just start from an old report right here in my past report. And if I search 839, you can find that Randall Court, and I can use that as a starting place for my template. And then client and non-client contacts is like your digital Rolodex. So you can save the contact information of AMCs, lenders, other entities you interact with professionally. This is going to be a backup system if I'm on Vision and Ultra, because we can pull a lot of that information from the engagement letter using the AI. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create the order. And then setup step number 2, if I had additional dwellings or outbuildings, I could add them at this page. So outbuildings being barns, workshops, ADUs, pole buildings, things like that. I don't for this property, so I'm good to continue. And then this is where I'm going to bring in the photos. So if I had done the inspection using Aivre Mobile, the photos would already be here. They'd be listed right down here, and I would just select them and continue. But we show it this way because you don't have to use the mobile app. And I'm just opening up my file explorer and selecting 28 inspection photos. And I can bring all those in at once. Okay, hitting continue. This is where I'm going to upload my documents. So I have a sales contract and an engagement letter. And the AI is going to do what's called character identification, meaning it just reads through the documents, it finds the relevant text, and then populates that into the report for you. And then you'll notice I have the option to add a public record PRD or an MLS listing ticket. I'm not going to do that because I'm running Aivre Ultra, and on Ultra, we go to those two sources automatically. That's the big difference, and really the only difference between Ultra and Vision is that Ultra goes to those two sources, Vision does not. So if I was doing this on Vision, I could add an MLS listing ticket, public record PRD, and the AI would be able to pull from there instead. So that will supplement some of the automation loss between those two tiers. Okay, and then this is the last setup step. And to me, this is the coolest thing that we do. This is using a tech that's generally known as computer vision to extract data out of your inspection photos. And computer vision, it's kind of an umbrella term. It was really pushed by industries like the automotive industry for self-driving vehicles. So the systems that let an AI and a camera tell the car what it's seeing in the roadway. This is a similar tech. It's just trained on property data. So it looks at your photos. It'll know whether it's a kitchen, living room, dining room. It'll pull out construction materials. So that could be countertops, cabinets, flooring, things like that. It will assign a fully editable condition and quality rating to your exterior kitchens and bathrooms, and also note deferred maintenance and appliances. And all of that happens in about 3 to 5 minutes for kind of a standard single family home like this. I'm usually getting about 220, 225 fields filled out just from the photos alone in this report. And, aside from the fact that that's really cool, it's also a really good data source, right? That's a primary source. You're the one taking those photos. Usually you took them that day or at least that week. So we can get information from there. In a lot of cases, that's going to be better than what might be available online. That being said, we are not creating an AVM, right? So you still want to go through and verify, and you can also just change anything. So what happened here, I looked at my photos, and Ava, or the AI, took my exterior photos, mapped those into the proper section of the report. So that's why I'm not seeing them. It went through the interior photos and broke down the interior structure of the property. Now I'm going to go through as the appraiser, confirm that everything is correct. And when I confirm that structure, it's going to launch the automation. And you can change anything at this stage as well. So if you see this first photo, this is just an empty first floor room. So the AI didn't have a lot to go on when making its decision. It tagged it as a living room. If I thought this was more like a den, I can just go to that middle category tag and switch it to den. And then third row is the name label. And that can be anything that I want, but I'm just going to call it den. And you'll notice I added a number to that name label. We use the number so you can differentiate when you have multiple photos of the same room or multiple rooms of the same type on a property. And what I mean by that, if you look at these three photos, 12, 13, and 14, these are three photos of the same half bathroom. So they're all tagged bath half one. So if I had another half bath on this property, I would call any photos for that room bath half two. And that just splits it up when it's mapping it into the report. But that's it. You just go through and you verify that all the photos are tagged correctly. And when you're done, you go to the bottom here and you confirm, and that launches the automation. So that was the whole setup process on Aivre Ultra. Now, because I'm on Ultra, it's going through public records, MLS, documents, and photos. And it's just going to populate as much of this report for me as it can. I'll then open up that report. I can complete any remaining manual data entry and change anything as I'm reviewing. So again, this is Ultra. If I was doing this on Aivre Vision, it would just be pulling from documents and photos. And then on Aivre Core, it's not an automated product. So after adding the data during setup, you would open up the report and start doing manual data entry. All right, guys, I'm going to leave this running. It just takes about 3 to 5 minutes. And while that's running, I'm going to open up another report. And I'm going to take you guys to the sales comparison approach section. Okay, I'm going to take you guys down to the SCA. I'm going to show you how to import comps from your MLS. And this is the area we're seeing a lot of the time loss. Aivre and our appraisers have submitted over 400 reports, live reports for 3.6 to date. So we've had a lot of experience kicking the tires on a lot of different property types when you're completing this dynamic report. And that's what we're seeing, a lot of time loss here. And the reason being that there's up to 73 fields that could be potentially populated for a comp. That is a lot more than was involved in 2.6. So I'm going to show you guys how to bring these in. You go up to add comparable. I'm going to select import from CSV TSV. It's going to pop up this window for me. And when I click there, you guys will see my file explorer pops up. I have this CSV file right here, Troy Comps, that has 3 properties in it. I'm going to drag and drop that into Aivre. And so this is what that looks like. In a CSV and a TSV file, it's just a table. It's a very easy way to share tabular data digitally. That's why a lot of services use it. I'm going to click Analyze, and it's going to go through those 3 rows in that CSV and populate 3 comps for me in the grid. So I showed you guys up in support and resources. In that area, there's a CSV guide, and that shows you the 30 main fields we utilize in Aivre Analytics. But in this section, you can directly add 1 to 10 comps at a time. and we can populate up to 73 fields. So any of these fields that are in your MLS, if you export them to that CSV, they will be read into Aivre. Also, doing this decouples this from your MLS. So not saying this would ever happen in a million years, but if there's an incorrect value for a listing from your MLS, you can correct that value when you bring it into Aivre. And then when you save it to your database, you're saving the corrected value. So if you bring that comp back in the future, it's not going back to the MLS, pulling the wrong information all over again. All right, you can see that ran for those three. So I'm going to click Apply Fields, and it just puts those right in the grid for me side by side. You have a little zoom control module over here, so I'm going to click Fit. That's going to get it back on screen. And you will also, I want to show you guys, you have to add a photo. So good news for 3.6, in-person comp photos are no longer a requirement from the GSEs. A client might specify it, but at least from the GSEs, it is not a requirement. So you can just drag and drop. And when you drag and drop a photo to this area, it gets added to the work file as well, so no need to add it both places. And obviously, when you save that comp, it's saving the photo with it. So I would add the photo, and then if I wanted to save this one right here for Davis, I would click on that gear icon, and I would select Save to Database. And that gives me the option to save it to my database individually or to share it across any of the organizations I'm a member of. And you'll notice I'm a member of more than one organization. That's because orgs are not tied to a company account. So we designed them to allow companies to co-work. At the same time, we know a lot of appraisers might be friendly, even if they don't work for the same company. It's a small industry. So if there's other appraisers in your area that are Aivre users and you wanted to share comps with those users, you could set up an org with them, share comps across that database as well. All right, and then I'll show you too, one of the things that's great about Aivre being web-based just allows us to run very smoothly. We're not relying on your local computing power to make the process happen. And so I can click and drag to rearrange these. I can, select multiple and remove them. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but you can treat Aivre kind of badly. It's not as fragile as what a lot of you guys are probably used to. You're not going to click one button and have the whole thing crash. So best way to get, familiar with it is get on there, kick the tires, and don't be afraid to click around. But anyway, I'm going to go back up to Add Comparable. And this time I'm going to select Import from Database. And I'll see all my saved comps, right? So these are all the comps saved to my profile. I can tab over to Organizations, see any I have shared across my orgs. And so if I go to my personal database and select these for comps right here and hit Load, it's just going to put those right in the grid for me side by side. And then two quick features. We understand that in certain assignment conditions, it might be quicker to clone a comp. So what you can do is click on the gear icon, click Duplicate Comparable, and that creates a clone, just stripping the photo and the address. And you can do the same thing from your subject property. So if I click Copy over here, it's going to basically put a comp version of my subject property in the grid for me. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And I want to show you guys the reconciliation area. So you'll notice here I have Commentary Fill Assist, and that is the one feature that is in Vision and Ultra that is not an Aivre core. And that's the ability to prompt the AI to help you generate commentary in any of these required commentary sections. So I can click here, prompt the AI with what I've done, what I want to see in my reconciliation. It'll take my text, make it sound really professional and detailed. It'll put it into this field, and it'll look something like this. But then I can edit, right? So you're never locked into anything that the AI does. And if I want to save this comment to my commentary database, I can click on this little floppy disk icon right there, and it saves it to my commentary database. And that is available on all three tiers. It's just generating that is available on Vision and Ultra only. Also, that database expands to the photo captions, so you can save photo captions as well. And then down here, I just want to show you we have the sales comparison map and aerial map. Both of those will pull the properties from your grid. You can click and drag, arrange the labels any way that you want, and then save that as an exhibit to this section. All right, so next, guys, I want to run us through the tools over here on the top right. So this toolbar on the right side has a lot of the most important functions within the platform, so just keep that in mind when you're testing. First one is the work file. So that cloud icon up here at the top, that's the work file. You can see all of the photos and documents I added during setup were added here as well automatically. That will happen in other areas as well. So if I was doing some market analysis and Aivre Analytics, any charts that were created in there, graphs will be added here as well. But you can also click Upload right here. That'll pull open my file explorer, and I can add any other files or photos at any time to my work file. And we're USPAP compliant. So we will store everything on the platform for 5 years for free. If you want to hold on to any of the work file data beyond 5 years, you can either do a one-click download of a zip file, or you can download any of the items individually right here. All right, next is the report images pane, and this is an example of that feedback process I mentioned to you guys before. This was recommended to us about 10 weeks ago. Our users wanted to see all of their photos being used in the report in one place, so they didn't have to search through the work file. It took Jordan Lesson and his team, our CTO, about 5 weeks to have that on the customer-facing site, so we move quick. And that's what this is. So you can see these tabs correspond to the table of contents over here, and I can open up any of these tabs. So we go into dwelling, exterior, and building. I can see what photos are being used in that area. And then if I hover over a photo, click on the pencil tool, pulls up my photo editing tools. So I have like crop, blur brush, draw. So I can edit all my photos quickly in one place. All right, and then next is Ava. Ava is the AI agent that can be used as your assistant while you're working through these reports. And I think Ava is one of the most powerful and underutilized parts of our system, and I understand why. I'm going to show you how to trigger Ava. I can go to wherever I see a blue star here in the report. So there's one right there for reconciliation. I click, and it's going to populate a question down here for me based on where I clicked. And the reason I think this is overlooked is we're used to AI agents or AI bots not being that helpful, right? You can ask ChatGPT a question about 3.6. You might get a really nice sounding answer, but if you follow up on the sources, it's Steve on Reddit, right? And we don't care what Steve on Reddit thinks about our report. We need information from the GSEs. And that's what Ava is. Ava is trained specifically on the F1 guide, the document I showed you up in resources. So this is a targeted search of that support document to get you information from wherever you clicked. And you're also going to get page numbers. So if you want to go verify the original text, you just go up to support and resources. You don't even have to leave the site. And you can ask open-ended questions as well. So I can say, what is the definition of deep water for access depth? And this is something new that they're asking when you add a body of water as a site influence. Is it deep, shallow, non-navigable, or other? What does deep water mean according to the GSEs? Is that 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, right? So I can ask Ava that content question and I get my answer. It's 4 feet or deeper, can handle most type of recreational watercraft. So as kind of a first line of defense, when you're asking structural or content questions about 3.6, Ava is a great resource. All right, next, this is the report validation tool, and this is the UAD compliance checker. We use these two tools to ensure report completion and basically reduce your exposure to revisions. So what this does is create an error tag for any required field in my report that has not yet been filled out. And what's nice is these are clickable. So if you see this tag right here, non-residential use exists, I click on that, it's going to jump me right to where that is in the report, and I'll see it highlighted in red. If I pop open the sidebar here, I can see those red numbers indicating how many required fields I have left per section as well. And then I want you guys to watch over here on the right side, because as I make a selection, that tag is going to disappear live, right? Like no need to refresh. And my error number is going to go down by 1. So I can see the next one in this section is hazard zone. I'm not in the hazard zone for this property. Next one is, do defects exist? They do not. And then last one for this section, apparent environmental conditions. And I can see right there. And I do not have any for this property either. And so now I'm done with that section, right? And I have 4 less errors. So you can go through, fill out all these error tags until there's none left visible. Once you fill out everything required, you come down here to the compliance checker, and we'll validate your report against the UAD spec on the GSE side. Once you pass validation, you'll be able to export the deliverable, and that is a zip file. So PDF, XML, and all your images in that zip file. But watch, if I try to click on that, it's going to jump me back to validation, right? Because I haven't passed. So it's actually kind of difficult to submit an incomplete report through Aivre. And in the long run, that's a good thing. That's just less revisions coming back to you guys. But at any point before passing validation, if I just want to see what the report's going to look like, I can click on this printable report, and that's just going to put a PDF up in my downloads area. There you go. And then I can click on that, and this is going to show me what the output is going to look like, even if I haven't yet passed validation. And I'll show you guys when you get down to the appraiser section. So my name, company address, my credentials as a trainee in the state of Michigan, also an image of my credential. All of that is populating from the profile page for every new report that I start. So no more manually typing in the appraiser section. I'm going to exit out of here, and I'll show you guys where the profile exists. So if you go up here, this is B for Brad. It'll be some combination of your initials. Go to your profile. And this is where you can add all that information. So my information, company information right there. There's my credential, contacts. And again, you have personal contacts. You also have ones that are shared across the organization, and you're the one who controls that sharing. And that works the same way with templates. Insurance policy can be added here. If you're on Aivre Ultra, this is how you link your MLS board. So I use RealComp here in Michigan. So it's just board name, MLS number. And we have about 95% coverage around nationwide when it comes to MLS. Just remember, when you're adding this MLS, this is what we use to auto-populate from the beginning for the subject property. When you're adding when you're adding listings, the way I showed you before in analytics, you're using CSV files. And therefore, it doesn't matter if you're integrated or not because you have access to that file. And then templates, like I said, you have personal, you also have organizational templates. And then the last thing here is setting up your signature. So if I click create signature, I can type it in. I can also draw a signature, and I can upload an image as well. So just showing you guys that, you'll want to fill that out from the beginning when you start testing. And then every time you start a new report, that section will be filled out with your information. All right, so now below that, this is Aivre Analytics. I'm going to take you guys there in just 1 minute. This is an invoice generator. So this will create a PDF invoice based on your the appraiser's information. So again, pulling from your profile and the assignment information down here. And you can also set a due date down here at the bottom that will show on the profile, and you can create a custom range as well. When I click generate PDF, it's just going to put that invoice up in my downloads, and you can use this to submit to your client. And then last thing down here is just the headphones icon, and that's the other way to access the support channel. So if you're in a report, you can access the Slack channel, send your questions in. This area up here is for submitting like a technical ticket. So if something's breaking, not working properly, you can submit that ticket right there with the screenshot. But I also want to show you guys you have the feature request option. So we really do build based on the feedback of our appraisers. So if you see something you want added to the platform, let us know. All right, next guys, I'm going to go to the market section, and we're going to use this to transition into analytics. So you can see this section is basically the 1004 MC. It's a lot of the same information. It's just a section of the report now instead of a separate form. And I'm going to use analytics to be able to populate this in just a couple minutes. So I can launch analytics right from this page. You can always launch it over here from the analytics sidebar. And it's going to prompt me to upload another CSV TSV. So instead of like before, when I did a pre-selected set of 1 to 10 that I was adding directly to the SCA, this is like my market data set. So I did like a 3-year look back period, 3-mile search radius, and I'm in a pretty high volume area. So that generated a big set of listings. And I'm going to bring them all in at once. So there's my CSV. And then when you guys bring in a CSV from a new source, so maybe it's the first time you're bringing it in from your MLS, the first time you're going to click autofill with AI. And what that's going to do, the AI is going to look at the column headers of your MLS output. It's going to match those to our Aivre fields. So right now you can see I have 6 out of 10, 6 out of 9. I'm going to let that autofill keep running. And then that's going to update my numbers as it kind of figures out the disambiguation of those naming conventions. So there we go, right? That finished. Now I have 10 out of 10, 9 out of 9. So I'm ready to go. But again, the first time you bring your CSV in, you're going to want to spend a little time here. You're going to look at over here, the Aivre fields. These are your CSV's fields. And then this is a sample result. So for list price, if I look at my sample result and it says Southwest, I'm going to know something is up, right? Because that's not a number. And the first time you bring it in, you're just going to go through one by one and just make sure everything is matched up properly. So I'm going to click on address. I can see I have everything I need for address down here. So I'm going to save that mapping. And that went from blank to 100%. That's how you know that you're good to go. I'm going to go into status, and I'm going to match my statuses, right? So active to active, sold to sold, pending to accepting back up offers and pending. Save that mapping. That goes to 100% as well. So I'll keep going through, and I'll show you what it looks like. Let's say that after AI autofill ran, I only had 9 out of 10, right? So something didn't get mapped up. I'm going to look at the warning, and I can see that it's close price. So I look for the close price on Aivre. It's right here. And I go to this drop-down menu, and I know my MLS calls it sale price. So I'm going to type in sale. There it is. Now I'm back to 10 out of 10, right? So you might have to do a little bit of this mapping the first time you bring in your CSV, go through and just confirm everything is synced up correctly. But then you're going to save the mapping. So once you're done with any of that, you go to save mapping. You can name it after your MLS. And so the next time you bring it in, everything's going to sync up instantly. And I'll show you. So I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to bring in my same CSV file all over again. And then instead of autofill with AI, this time I'm going to select load a saved mapping. And watch the numbers up there, because I'm going to select my mapping, and now instantly those just sync up, right? So you only have to do that the first time, and that also allows you to use multiple MLS providers, because you can set up a different saved mapping for each one. All right, next step, it's going to link my subject property to the report that I launched analytics from. So 5341 Cheltenham was my subject property. It's selecting that in analytics as well. And then when I hit save and continue, it's going to bring all these listings in and plot them on a map for me here in analytics. All right, now that these are in analytics, let's draw a market area. So most of the buttons that are like the tools and functions within analytics are in the blue down here. The gray buttons up here are mostly exporting, so how you send information back to your 3.6 order. So I am going to go down to draw market area, and it's going to prompt me to just draw a polygon, right? So I'm going to click draw, and you can also define a search radius. And then when I double click, it's going to close the shape. I can save that market area under any name that I would like. And it's going to prompt me to filter, right? So I'm just going to filter for sold for this demonstration. So if my numbers look a little funny, just keep in mind I'm showing you how this works. I'm going to go to add to export and apply. And you see what it did. It subset all those listings based on the area I drew, as well as the filters that I put in place. So from here, I'm going to go to my table view. I'm going to add those filtered listings to my comp set, and we'll see them all turn green. So that's why I know what I have selected. I can scroll down, and the subject property is going to be pinned to the top row, so I can compare those field values. I can also sort by any of these column headers. So if I sorted by close price, and obviously I normally would have done a little bit of filtering by now, but let's say that most of my data at the top end was between like 2.1 and 2.6, and then I had two listings that were above 4 million. I would know those are outliers, right, for my market area. So I would select those two listings and hit remove from comp set right there. I'm going to add those two back in because they're not true outliers. And then once you've removed any outliers and you're ready to run, you just click on market analysis, and that's it. So it generates all the statistics for you that will populate that market page. So median living area, median beds, median baths, sell price low, sell price high, days on market, you got all that. And then these are the 4 graphs that the GSEs are specifically recommending for the market section of a 3.6 report. And I think the way they write it out in the spec is that if you don't include a graph describing these variables, you have to write something describing them anyway. So we just create them from your CSV. And that's sale to list price ratio, absorption rate, days on market, and year built distribution. And you can set the look back period as well. So this is why I like to bring in 3 years of data, even if I don't necessarily need it for my report, because I like to be able to compare a 1-year trend versus a 2-year trend versus a 3-year trend. And that will happen live within the platform. All right, and then last thing I want to show you guys down here, this is the price trend data. So you have regular close price and adjusted close price. This will show you that compound month over month change. Linear is the default fit, but per the GSEs, we also have the polynomial fit. And you can select that look back period, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and see how that compound change adjusts over different time scales. Okay, when I want to actually send this back to my 3.6 report, I'm going to click add to export down here. So same button as on filters. I'm going to exit out of this menu. And then again, I'm going to go up to where the gray buttons are. Those are like my export functions. And I'm going to click on market data export. And I'm going to bring in the market area. There's a couple other required fields here. Just so you know, you can address those here. You can also address them in the report. So you don't have to fill those out at this stage. It's going to show you all your graphs. And then I'm going to export to report. It's going to link to the order that I launched analytics from, but I can send this to any of my reports or any across my organizations as well. So I'm going to keep this linked. I'm going to hit attach and continue. And when we go back into the report, we'll see that that entire section has been filled out. This is giving me the option to jump there if I want to. I'm going to stay in analytics for now. All right, next I want to show you guys Aivre adjusters. So I'm going to click on adjuster. It's going to run paired sales analysis. We're building out sensitivity analysis, and we're looking at additional methods that appraisers are using currently. You can adjust the tolerances over here on the left, or just run with the default settings. And this is going to go out in that set of listings and find match pairs for me based on the main adjustment feature categories, and then list them in this table of results down here. So this is the feature type for the adjustment, the number of match pairs that we found, and then the range of values. So if I click on lot size, It's going to give me a similarity score out of 100, and it's going to list the highest one first. So 82% similarity score. That estimates a $4 per square foot lot size adjustment. And what the similarity score is essentially telling me, it's saying, while isolating the variable of lot size, how similar are these two properties to each other for the rest of their features, right? And that's saying that they're roughly 82% similar. And so you can see both properties side by side, a column with the difference in values between them. But again, we got feedback from appraisers saying the highest similarity score doesn't always indicate the adjustment value I think is appropriate. So we just list them all in descending order, right? So you can scroll through, see your different match pairs, and just figure out the value for that adjustment that makes sense to you. And then once you have that adjustment, and I'll show you guys, we have an adjustment review page. So I'm going to mark this one. I'm going to go to review selected. And then actually I'm going to exit out of this menu. You can open the adjustment workspace. And in here, you have basically like an adjustment calculator. So it'll show you all the different values from your paired sales. You can select and determine the adjustment value that makes sense. And this will also generate support that you can use to show where you got these adjustment values from. Okay, last thing I want to show you guys while we're in Aivre Analytics is how you can select comps from analytics and export them back to the sales comparison approach grid. So that's another way you can add listings. I'm going to go to the comp set down here at the bottom and clear that out. And I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to reopen my filters. So this time I'm going to set some parameters. Let's say only properties with a minimum of 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and 2 half baths. I'm going to hit add to export again and apply. And then it's going to only pull out the listings that meet those requirements I set. So same workflow. I go into table view. I can scroll across laterally, check all the different field values. And let's say that I want to use Cole and Yorkshire as my two comps in my grid. I'm going to select those two. And then I'm going to click down here, add selected to comp set. It'll select those two properties. And then I'm going to go back up to that same export area. Instead of market data export, I'm going to click on export sales comparables. And it does give me the option to send these to additional properties, analyzed but not used. That's like a new section of 3.6 under the grid. Not required, but it is there. I'm going to click on sales comparables and select those two listings and click export. And then same thing's going to happen. It's going to link to the report I launched analytics from, but I can send these to any of my reports. All right, I hit attach and continue. It pops up this menu if I want to go view those in the grid, and I do. So there they are. Nope, those aren't them. There they are. Yorkshire and Cole, right? Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of these two. I want to show you guys how you can use the auto adjustment function. So I used Aivre Adjuster, figured out my adjustment values. I'm going to click on auto adjustment right here. This puts a column in your grid that has a auto adjustment calculator. So I'm going to zoom in up here. We'll scroll down, and I think site size is the first one to use it. Yep. So I can put in that adjustment value as a price per unit, a percentage per unit, or a flat rate. And I can also set a threshold. So I can say, within 500 units, don't apply the adjustment. And if we just put in like a $5 lot size adjustment and hit apply, it'll push across all the comparables in my grid. And then so you can see this is active in like bedrooms, full baths, half baths, a lot of other areas, condition and quality. When you get down to the bottom, you also have an indicated value calculator. So if I click on this, it's going to show me all the weights being applied to my comparables. It's going to show me all the adjustments that I've made so far. And if I adjust any of these weights, so I'll change that one to 20, the rest of the properties will adjust to account for that difference. So very useful when coming up with your final indicated value. All right, guys, so I'm going to close the main demo portion by taking you back to that assignment we were running on the other screen. And we're done. So we filled out 483 fields of this report before I do any manual data entry myself. And again, that wasn't running the entire time I was on the other screen. For standard single family home, 28 photos, 3 to 5 minutes is kind of a good reference point. And this review page is going to show me on a one-to-one basis where these are actually coming from, right? So I can see most of the assignment information is tagged PDF. That makes sense because it's coming from the sales contract and engagement letter, right? And I just want to point out, if we go to dwelling exterior, you'll see like the first 25, 30 are from MLS. The rest of that 106 are from my photos, right? The inspection photos, so they're tagged image. And then when you go to unit interior, it leans even more heavily on the inspection photos. So the first 11, it looks like, are from other sources. The rest of that 183 are coming directly from the inspection photos. So I show this because if I added up the rest of the sections, those other supplemental documents, I would probably get somewhere slightly north or around 300 fields filled out if I was doing this on Ivory Ultra, our middle tier, versus 450 plus if I was doing this on Ultra. Sorry, Ultra, the main tier Vision, the middle tier I would get about 300. But remember, on Ivory Core, the base tier I would be getting 0, right? So to me, the step up from 0 points to around 300 fields is a bigger step up than from 300 to 450. So for those of you that are checking us out, I would definitely recommend at least looking at Vision, because that's going to really reduce your turnaround time significantly. All right, and then I just want to close by showing you guys a quick side-by-side of our output. And I'm going to pull up another report from my dashboard. And right here, so this report in Ohio, this is just a blank 3.6 order. So basically, if I was doing this on Ivory Core or any other platform, this is what I'd be looking at. And we got a lot of work to do, right? As a data entry person, before I can start thinking like an appraiser, we got to get all the information on here. In 3.6, you'll see that some of the sections are just really data entry intensive. So that would be my starting point. Or I could go to that same section in my Ivory Ultra report, and I'm going to be in much better shape. So all of this would actually be filled out here at the top. These three for above grade, finished and unfinished, and below grade, that would have come from my sketch. And I just didn't do a sketch on this call, so that's why that's still blank. So all of that would be filled out. You go down to level and room detail, and it's done. And this is tedious to do manually. You have level 1, you have the den that came in like I specified from the beginning, living room, dining room, and you can watch the photos there, breakfast room and kitchen. If I go to B1, which is my basement level, you're going to see the utility room, the wet bar, and the rec room. And notice there's drop ceilings in the rec room. So that's a unique ceiling style, so the AI is going to flag that. And I'll show you where it goes. All right, so this is my interior quality and condition for kitchens and bathrooms. If me as the appraiser thinks this is actually Q3 and C3, I just change it, right? Like, it's never going to snap back to the AI's answer for anything. The appraiser is always in control. And if you check out this quality comment, so granite counters, tile backsplash, dark cabinets, that's that image interpretation coming from my kitchen photo. And then down here at the bottom, it's going to see interior features. So it pulled out hardwood, ceramic tile, and carpet in this property. It's going to show you example photos of each. And then if I go into wall and ceiling information, I have 8-foot ceiling heights, flat and drop ceiling styles. And that's why I showed you that rec room photo, because the AI flagged that, said, oh, that's a unique ceiling style. So it mapped it down to interior features as well. So this is why we're kicking butt with turnaround time, guys, because we're coming into some of these sections of a really data entry intensive report. We're 80, 85% filled out. You fill out the rest, change anything you want to change, and move on to the next section. Anyone else, you're going to be coming in looking at something like this. And if it's not, Ivory, it's not even going to look this good, because it's in all likelihood not going to be a modern, intuitive software like this. So yeah, I think that's good, Nate, for the main demo portion. We can open up for a little bit of Q&A, and just reminding anyone in here that wants to hang out to see how you create your own profile. After the Q&A, I'm going to take you guys through that if anyone's interested. So go ahead, Nate.
Sounds great, Brad. I'll go ahead and start reading off some of the questions we have in the chat. One of the first questions is, as it pertains to 50 max photos, where do the additional ones take and go? FHA require water on, gas on, electric on, outdoor features, barbecue station, etc.
Yeah, so you're only limited at 50 photos to run through the automation. You're not limited to 50 photos for the whole report. So you'll select, you need 50, which, to be honest, in most cases, unless it's a really, really large property, you're not going to need 50 photos to create a quality automation. Like, I have 28 for this, decent sized single family home. I wouldn't want to add any more, because it's not about adding more photos. It's about having the right number of quality photos. But again, just to answer your question, you can add a lot more than 50 to the work file. You just have to select 50 to automate from.
Okay, that's great to know. There's another question here. I answered it in the chat in case others had the same question. The question was, are you going to add a vacant land report? That is currently on our roadmap for implementation right now. So be mindful that is something that is to come. Another question here, Brad, for you is, do we have any problems with Scottsdale Area Association regarding pulling in comparables? This was a question they had. This might be more of a question for you, just off chain as it pertains to their area.
I mean, when it comes to the comparables guys and analytics, it really doesn't matter what MLS you're using. As long as your MLS can export a CSV or a TSV file, we can read it into the system. And that's not like a breach of anything. You're allowed to access your own data and use whatever tool you want with it. So that's one of the advantages to doing it as a CSV pull. First, I mentioned it decouples it from the MLS. So if you save it, you're saving any corrected values that you made. And also, it allows you to have the flexibility to bring in properties outside of just one MLS or your MLS. We have rule appraisers in some of those areas, just because of the limited data, a lot of products are not even available in those rural areas. And we wanted rural appraisers to be able to use Ivory as well. So that was another reason we went to CSV over direct pull. But the answer to your question is yes. Like as long as you can export a CSV or a TSV, which every MLS in the country should allow you to do, you'll be able to use that in analytics.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question is pertaining to when you are starting the report. It states, is start from template like cloning existing data?
Yeah. So that's what templates are essentially. I can show you guys really quickly if I go to create new, and I'll put in the same subject property address and then just grab a template. This will strip, I mean, it really keeps almost all the information across. It's not a true one-to-one clone because we do strip some of the subject property photos, but our templates are pretty extensive and you can set these up any way that you want, right? So you can do it by property type, you can do it by lender, you can do it by area. So if I go here and just select one of these templates, and then I'm going to leave autofill off so I can just create it, showing you only the information from the template. Like you see, a lot of this is carried over, right? So I don't have, it's not a blank report. It's pulling over a lot of the data from the previous report. So, and the reason, guys, it's not just a straight one-to-one clone is that's actually coming from the GSE side. They were really pushing back against the ability to do a one-to-one clone for 3.6 because it's a dynamic form. But we were getting a lot of requests from our users to have some form of templating. So this was our way of like getting as much of that information across for you guys as possible without falling out of compliance with the GSEs. And you'll notice that
Awesome.
there's certain things related, sorry, Nate, just related to
You're good.
3.6 where we're not necessarily making the call, right? We have to stay in compliance. We have to stay verified so we can submit these. So some of that is coming from the GSEs, not necessarily us.
Okay. Thank you. I'll answer this one. The question I'd answered it in the chat in case others have this. How do we access the mobile inspector when it comes to like the actual Ivory mobile app? Okay. So whether you have Android, iPad, or an iPhone, just go to your app store on any of those devices, type in Ivory Mobile. It is a free app download. Anyone can go ahead and get access to it. And then that is the best bet to go ahead and start to use that application. And you can use it. You don't need to have um, the newest iPhone in order to use it. You can use it on an iPhone from 3 or 4 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
just letting you guys know that as well too. Next question here, Brad, is for you. Do you have to upload a contract for a sale? Is that a new requirement?
You don't have to. It's just when you're running on Vision and Ultra, we can pull information from that sales contract and populate it into the assignment information section. So I don't know if that's necessarily like a require. I'm guessing it's not, but we use that so we can populate more of the report for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question here is when you load your photos at that point, do you also load your property deficiency photos at the same point as well?
Yes, you will. And the AI should tag those, but if they don't, they'll be in the work file. And then you can just add that as an exhibit to any of those defect sections.
Perfect. Next question here is if photos are taken with mobile, do they have to be saved to a specific file or do they go immediately to the report?
Oh, so they don't go immediately. Well, let me back up. So I showed you one of the ways that you guys can take your photos. And basically what I did is I just took all of my photos without putting them in the report anywhere. And then I let the AI tag it. And I went through and verified that the tagging was correct. So that's fine to do it that way and let the AI assist you. You just have to be able to make sure that you can verify, right? So that you can change anything if it tagged something incorrectly. But the other way to do it is in Ivory Mobile, you can literally just build out the level and room detail section as you're going through. So if you open up Ivory Mobile and go Actually, I'm going to take you guys to that blank report because I want to show you what that looks like. When you open up Aivre Mobile, you can add the first level. So right here, yeah, level and room detail. So you would open up Aivre Mobile. You would, obviously with a touchpad, you would say level 1. Let's say above grade, and then it's going to have me add a room. So I could click add room, and we'll say the first room I'm in is a bedroom. There'll be a little button right here for the camera. So I could tap on that button, take the photo of that room, and then add plus, go to the next room, and just build out the property while I'm going through the inspection. So that's also an option. Neither one is better per se. This would take you a little bit more time on inspection, but obviously you wouldn't have to verify later on because everything's already in the same place. The other way is faster, but you have to be able to verify that everything was tagged correctly.
Okay, thank you for that. Um, Kind of similar on the same topic. Are the photos stored on my computer, or is there a database in the app to store and label photos on Ivory?
So you can select that as an option. They're not going to default save to your device. The default is to save to the cloud since we're web-based. So basically, if I was connected to the internet on my mobile device and I took a photo, that would instantly pop into the work file on the website as well. But you can select from the profile. There's an option where you can say save a copy of the photos to my device. So you are more than welcome to utilize that if you want to have a backup.
Okay, perfect. Can the photos be added automatically?
Not automatically at this time, but you can literally just drag and drop it into that red box. And that's what I do all the time. I just click on the photo from my MLS, I drag it into that red area above the comp, brings it in, compresses it automatically, and adds it to the work file as well.
Okay, perfect. How do you add original photos of comps, not MLS?
Well, you can just bring them in with the rest of your photos. So there's a number of different ways
Perfect.
you can do it. You can take it with the mobile app. When you set up the automation, you'll just make sure that none of those comp photos are included in your automated photos because you don't want to populate the subject property from a comp photo. So you'll turn those off. They'll still get added to the work file. And then when you get to that comp area, you'll just click select from work file and it'll let you pick that photo.
Okay, thank you. Another quick question is, can you work in the sales grid with the keyboard,
Mhm.
i.e. arrow and number keys? I believe this was just added as well
Just
too,
added.
correct? Yep.
Yep. Fresh off the presses with this one. We're probably going to refine it a bit more because this literally just got added like yesterday, guys. But if you go to the grid, if you see that little question mark icon right there, that'll show you all the different quick keys we have for navigating in the grid. And let me hit fit and add some properties here. I'll just show you really quick. We have it's called shift clicking. So if I hold shift and click, now I can use the keypad to fly around the report. And this will let you, there's also a function if you want to push a value across the grid that's outside of what the auto adjustment calculator does, you can utilize that as well.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll answer this next question in case others didn't go ahead and see the answer in the chat that we provided. The question was, can an organization be created with one subscription that allows assistance without separate subscription? So what they're saying is, when it comes to buying one subscription, if they have assistance, can they also go ahead and do they need to buy a separate subscription as well? The answer to that is no. When it comes to assistance, these could be admin or trainees. So anyone who is not a licensed appraiser, they do not need another license. So let's just give one example. Let's say there's one licensed appraiser, there's two trainees, one assistant, that's an admin. Okay. The trainees and the assistant, it's a flat cost of 300. Is it for the year or the month? It's
For the year,
300 a
300
year,
a year.
right?
Yep.
Yep, 300 total for the year. So you would have one subscription license. Let's say it's an annual license of Vision. Okay, one subscription, and then you'd have 300 times three. You're paying $900 total for all three of those seats. And so that's basically how it works there. So you would only need one subscription for that.
Yeah. And then one thing to keep in mind, though, guys, is that trainee seat. The one difference between that and the full license is trainees that are using the $300 seat cost can't sign a report. So if they want to be signing the report, they do need their own license. But if they're just basically working under the supervisor to provide, there's a section, significant real property assistance, that's fine for them to utilize the $300 seat.
Okay, thank you. Um, Another question in here, I had answered it in case anyone else had this as well. Are market analytics available for each price tier? The answer to that is yes. If you
Mm-hmm.
go to our pricing tiers underneath the annual or the monthly, market analytics is available for all three tiers. So it is in there across all the tiers. Um, Another question for you, Brad, is how do you do time adjustments?
So we're working on that area a little bit. Right now, we do have the price trend data, and it will let you select a time period and show you the month by month change. We've had conversations like just in the last 2 weeks with some people from the GSEs because we wanted to understand a little bit about what they were looking for there. And so that's almost certainly going to change to be where you can select a point in time and it'll show you just the monthly change from that point in time to current. So just keep your eye on the release notes because that's going to be updated soon.
Thank you. A couple other last minute questions here, Brad. We'll give it like 3 more minutes. Um, if you do a wide market CSV file like you did in analytics, are those listings then saved in the comp database automatically?
No, so you save the comps manually. It's not going to save all 400 listings. It just wants, that's for doing the analysis. You can send as many as you want back to the grid, but once they're in the grid, you do have to save them. We're not just going to automatically save everything.
Thank you. Does Ivory have its own sketch program?
Yep, we do. We're going to be hosting a webinar very soon. I know we did one recently too that is just Sketch. So I don't want to get,
Hmm.
I know there's a lot in Sketch, so I don't want to spend too much time in here, but I can just show you what it looks like. We have Sketch on the mobile app as well. And you see, so that's a new option too, that you can load a sketch from a previous report. I don't know if you guys caught that right here. So now the sketches are independent. You can bring them across different reports. But if I launch Sketch, so this is a sketch I was just messing around with earlier, but like you have the pencil tool, you can use keyboard or mouse control. I know a lot of people prefer keyboard control. And you have grid paper and snapping, and you have these quick points. So it's pretty straightforward, standard sketching platform. When I close a shape, I can specify whether it's, what level it's on, whether it's finished or unfinished, above, grade, or below. And then those areas are added to that calculator. And that's how, when I click import from Sketch, when I was on unit interior, that would populate those three fields that were still unfilled from my sketch.
Thank you. Um, Another question, and by the way, we'll answer a couple more questions here for the
Yeah,
next 2 minutes,
we've
but
probably got to
these
pause. But yep, go ahead. Now we can do the last
let's
one.
let's do 2 more minutes here.
Okay.
Just a couple general ones that I think everyone needs to hear. But these questions are great. Just a quick side note. So each quarter we roll out 2 to 3 videos where
Mhm.
we take your guys' most asked questions or frequently asked questions. And we go ahead and answer them straightforward in a candid manner. We just put out the last 2 videos on our YouTube channel, Ivory Studios. And so part 1 and part 2 address what you guys have been asking the most. So keep giving us these questions because a lot of our changes and adjustments, we're basing it off of the type of feedback that you guys give us, and especially the volume of the feedback and the questions and what they pertain to. So these are great. Question for you, Brad, is what web browser is recommended when it comes to this report?
I don't know if we have like a recommended browser. I will say that I know a lot of us use Chrome very successfully. So I know that one very well. I don't really think it's limited. It's whatever, as long as you can get to ivory.com, it should work very well. It's kind of personal preference. I like using Chrome for other applications, so I just use it for Ivory.
Okay, and then we'll do last question here. I'll answer one question, then Brad, I'll have you answer this last one. So there's a couple different things in here about Sketch. So we just did the full webinar that was dedicated to just Sketch. We'll have another one coming probably end of August. That will be another full webinar just for Sketch. If you have a paid account or a free account on Ivory, which means free account, just put in your email and create an account. You can see we have about 20 videos on there in terms of our sketch that pertains to mobile and web. And you can segment it depending upon what you're interested in, what you're looking at. And so just a couple of things for sketch on that. Um, Sketch does work in our mobile app, just because there's a question on that as well too. So definitely check out those tutorials there. Um, and then last thing for you, Brad, is um, uh, let's see. Um, is there an update on integration with Apex Sketch software?
I mean, Nate, you can take that one, or I can share. I did get an update today that that is still happening. It's still rolling forward. I don't have like a final word to give you guys today, but I did get an update this week that that's progressed and we're getting closer to having that integrated, so you can actually use those files and not just the image.
Perfect. And then, Brad, let's go ahead and transfer over. What
Yep.
Brad's going to walk everyone through now is how to complete their profile. This will help, especially like Brad was just showing. If you start from a blank report, it'll kind of go ahead and auto pull some of these, little simple areas, your MLS, right? Some of your personal information in when it comes to signing and that type of stuff. So it'll help that process kind of streamline it. Another thing here too, is Brad's pulling that up. There's a question about importing Sketch from somewhere else. You can import it as a photo from somewhere else. I believe so. Correct, Brad?
Oh yeah, yeah. You guys can
Just
add
as a photo.
JPEG, PNG, WebP, HEIC, like
Yep.
PDF, any photo format. So the only caveat with adding an image to use as your sketch exhibit is those above grade finished and unfinished areas will not be calculated from that because it's just an image. So you will have to put those values into that unit section manually. But that's the only caveat. So you can use that. And again, we're looking at a lot of integrations. I know the Apex one is kind of coming down the pipe right now. And when we actually have the integration with that file type where it actually has the vector data, we'll be able to import the areas from those.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so I want to show you guys, for anyone who hasn't created their account, we're going to go through this really quickly. If you already have your account and you're going to hop off at this time, we appreciate you guys taking the time. Keep your eye out. We're launching a new demo series next week where we're going to go section by section through an entire 3.6 report, at least the desktop portion of it. So we're going to start with assignment information and work our way all the way through to the end. So keep an eye on that. We're going to be launching that next week. If you want to create a profile, all you have to do is go to aivre.com. You're going to go up in the top right here and click create order. And it's going to bring you here where you have a couple different options for creating your account. So you can log in with Google, you can sign in with Apple, or just good old fashioned email and password. I use Google. I use a lot of Google Workspace features. So that was easiest for me, but whatever works for you guys is fine. So I'm going to click login with Google right here. And it's going to prompt me for my Google email and password. And then it is going to, oh, password next. All right, and then the pop-up initially, because I've actually logged into this account before, even though I haven't like populated it. It'll show you guys a pop-up and like a little quick tour that will take you to where you can join the Slack channel for support, where you can populate the profile and all of that. So it's going to look a little bit differently for you guys than for me. And actually, this brings up the Aivre directory, which I'm going to show you guys at the bottom of the profile area. So I'm just going to click maybe later, but this is what it's going to initially look like when you create your profile, right? I have no reports yet, no comps. I'm going to go up to that profile area. So BW, and again, combination of your initials, go up to your profile. And this is where I can add in all my information when I get started. So I can add in if I'm a VA or an FHA appraiser, I can add my IDs right there. If I have any professional designations, I can add them right in this area. And then this is the company name, company address. And this is where I add credentials. And just reminding you guys, the reason it's so important to populate this from the beginning is that every new report you start will pull and populate the appraiser section from your profile. And that's the same way that the invoice feature works. So you want to populate this from the beginning. So yeah, I can add my state credential. So certified general, certified res, licensed res, trainee, or other. I add a image of my credential as well because I like that being in the report. Client and non-client contact. So this is where you can build out that digital Rolodex. So client versus non-client role here, right? AMC, attorney, investor, lender. In most cases, for a 3.6 assignment, if there's a client and non-client, the client will be the lender, the non-client will be the AMC. It just depends. In certain legislation or certain areas, jurisdictions, it might allow for an AMC to be the client, but in most cases, it is the lender's the client, AMC is the not client. And then down here, you can add your insurance policy. This is where you add your MLS board. So I told you guys I use Real Comp. So if I start typing that in, pops it up. So I'll select that. And then the MLS number is just the numeric identifier that you're a member of that MLS. So it's not like email and password. You can also add multiple MLS boards, and we'll check each one. Every time you start a new assignment, see which one the subject property is in and utilize that one. So templates right here, and then create a signature. So I showed you guys this briefly during the main demo, but if I type in like my full name, it'll stylize a signature for me. I can also draw one if I want to do that. And then you can also just upload an image of your signature and we'll digitize that for you. All right, and then a couple of things. We didn't go over this area in the main demo, but this is where you can change your sign-in method. So I'm connected with Google. You will want to enable an email and password as well. That will allow you to access the mobile app. And you can also switch. So if you want to switch your credentials from one method to another, you can do that in this area. This is the password recovery area. So that's where you can generate a new password if you lose access. And then this is important. So this is 2FA, two-factor authentication. So if that is turned on, you will have to have some type of authenticator app. That can be Duo. Google has its own authenticator. And using that will allow you to, it's just an added layer of security, basically. So just keep an eye on that, because if it's enabled, you need to have the app. And we've had a couple people enable it by accident, and then they have to recover their account, which we can do, but obviously we want to avoid that. And for those of you that are owners of a business that work with a team, you can make that a requirement for your whole organization to use two-factor authentication. And then last thing, guys, right here, if you look at marketing communications, this is where you can opt in and out of our marketing communications. We don't really spam you guys with a lot of really sales-heavy stuff. The reason I would recommend staying in opted in, sessions like these, the new session series that we're starting next week, we send out notifications and invitations for those by using those marketing communications. So just something to consider. And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys, this is that appraiser directory that we saw pop up when I opened my profile. What this is basically letting you tell AMCs, lenders, people that are looking for 3.6 orders to be completed that you're ready. And you can fill out your information here. And we have had appraisers source assignments by utilizing that directory. But yep, I think that that pretty much covers the account creation, guys. I sent my email into the chat, so feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions. Really appreciate you guys making the time to meet with us today. We're very excited about where Aivre is. It's going to get a lot better from here. And just stay tuned, because next week we're going to start that series where we go a little bit more in depth into actually completing a report section by section. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.